But it's the biggest movie we've ever made in 100 years of Disney animation. It's the biggest movie we've ever made. Most films have about 1,600 to 1,800 shots. This one had upwards of 20.
Yeah.
How many? 2,200 shots. So hundreds of more shots, 80 different environments, 65 plus species of animals, 70 speaking roles. So this, and the scale, I think, is something that we wanted to do, and I think something the audience was hoping we'd do. So I think that's all. We always want to take a step up from the film before.
See, now I got to go watch the movie again.
Yeah.
Right?
Hello, and welcome to In Conversation, Zootopia 2. I'm Matt Brennan, editor-in-chief of The Envelope from the Los Angeles Times. Joining me today are writer and director Jared Bush, director Byron Howard, producer Yvett Merino, the voice of Judy Hopps, Ginnifer Goodwin, and the voice of Gary the Snake, Huy Quan. Welcome, y'all.
Yay. Hey, thank you.
So to get the juices flowing, I actually wanted to start with I guess what I would call a softball.
Oh.
What's an animated film that each of you loved growing up? Or maybe that you love watching with your kids now?
Oh, yeah.
Ginnifer?
Well, I live in a Winnie the Pooh house, and I also live in a Winnie the Pooh house. So I grew up with that being my favorite Disney film, my first love. I always said Winnie the Pooh is my boyfriend. And then, no joke, my husband and I met on a show called Once Upon a Time where we were playing Disney characters. I had been working on Zootopia #1, and we bought a new house together. And we found out in looking at the blueprints of our house that we had actually bought Sterling Holloway's house, the voice of Winnie the Pooh. So I literally live in a Winnie the Pooh.
I can't top that.
But you are my neighbor.
That's true. We're neighbors. For me, Jungle Book. It was the first Disney movie I remember seeing in a theater. And there was something about, obviously I love animals, but there's something about that combination of animals and music. It just stuck with me forever. So yeah, definitely Jungle Book for me.
Yeah, and when I was a kid, I'm older than Jared, but
a lot older.
A lot older, but no, I grew up on Robin Hood in the 1970s, and honestly, when he and I first started talking about creating this world, Robin Hood came up a lot because we hadn't done one of those types of movies, like anthropomorphic animals with the clothes, and so and then we thought that in a modern world is something that we had never seen, and we thought it's about time that we do that. So we owe a lot to Robin Hood growing up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For me, you know what? I grew up on so many Disney movies, but Beauty and the Beast was the one that I always connected to, that was on my VHS all the time and playing them over and over again. There was just something about Belle and her wondering what else is out there and not quite feeling like she fit in, was something I always just really connected to.
That's a good one. That's also mine. But I think my favorite memories is it's watching Disney cartoons. We used to call them cartoons back then with my brother on the weekends. That was my favorite pastime. And every time I think of those days, it's just wonderful memories that I have. But in terms of movies, a lot. Pinocchio, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, all of those, they're all classics. And I grew up watching them, loving them, and they really made an impact in my formative years.
Byron, you brought up Robin Hood, and I wanted to sort of start with you and Jared and talk about, in 2016, Zootopia comes out, it's a smash hit. But that isn't in and of itself enough to justify doing a sequel. You need to find a story worth telling. So I was wondering, was it a challenge to figure out how to continue this story of Judy and Nick? And then also, can you take me back to the lightning bolt of inspiration that is Zootopia 2?
The lightning bolt. That's what I'm going to call you from now.
Oh, I love it.
You're my little lightning bolt. Gosh. It's funny because the great thing about Zootopia for us is, honestly, from head to toe, it was a dream project for us. Literally, the studio said, you guys can do whatever you want. What if you could do just one amazing movie, any world, any subject, what would it be? And literally, he and I bonded over our childhood love of animals, of cartooniness, and kind of dumb humor that we absolutely love. And we really just dove in creating the world together. And we discovered along the way, through about almost 2 years of research, that we had a subject that was way too huge for one 90-minute film. And there were all sorts of, literally hundreds of ideas that we had in that first film that we could not fit into one story. But that's where this world keeps giving back, because like the world of animals is enormous. And when you really lean into what makes animals cool and what makes them worth talking about, then you come up with amazing stuff. Because I remember even like when Jared and I and Yvette were finishing Encanto about 4.5 years ago, Jared was already thinking about this story. He did a little drawing on a story pad that said Zootopia 2, and the 2 was already Gary. It was already Gary the snake on this little scribble on a page. And so as a way into the world of reptiles, Jared was already thinking about the Gary the
It's
snake.
true. I should also tell him, so I'm the worst artist in the world. So a snake is about the only thing I can draw. So I think had I been a better artist, it could have been an elephant. I don't know. I will say that, the other really wonderful thing about this world of animals is that it allows us to hold a mirror up to human nature. And I think that's one of the things that's really exciting for us, because obviously we want to bring joy and we want to have this really entertaining ride. But at the end of the day, this is a movie, and this world allows you to dive into human nature, to our patterns, things we need to look at, to think about. And there's no limit to the things that we need to think about. We're kind of imperfect mammals ourselves. And so I think for us, jumping into the story, knowing that we wanted to bring reptiles in, it was really fun to think about what that story might be. At its core, it's really this story between Judy and Nick and their partnership and deepening it. They're very different animals, and they have to work through those differences. And we wanted to mirror that with mammals and reptiles. And so while you have this very honestly intimate, personal story with the two of them, the mystery is really about how do you parallel that in this larger world.
Yvette, for you, what was the thing that sort of sparked you as like, oh, Zootopia 2, for lack of a better pun, has legs?
I did not work on the first film. I was working on another film at the time. And so, but I've always been a huge fan. When we saw it, when it was complete and we saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this movie. And so when the idea of Zootopia 2 started coming up, we were finishing up Encanto and started talking about working together again. And I jumped at the opportunity to kind of come into this world and really start playing around with it. And there's something about this world, as the guys mentioned, it really kind of reflects our human world. So it allows us to play in a way that, we haven't been able to in other films. And, really to be able to, jump into these characters, going back to Judy and Nick. And I love Judy Hopps.
That's me.
So being able to kind of jump in there and to really dive into continuing the story of Judy and Nick. And then, once we started talking about reptiles and bringing in, Gary and Nibbles and all the other characters, the love just kind of grew and grew. And the momentum of the show, what I love about what we do is it really honestly starts with an idea, and there's just a momentum that picks up, and it kind of just keeps rolling and snowballing into this story and this film that we have. So,
Ginnifer, when you're slipping back into Judy Hopps after such a long interlude, is it like riding the proverbial bike? How did it feel for you?
I don't know if this is how I would have handled things intentionally, but because I intentionally had children, which is where this is going. But my kids were at the perfect age for my slipping number one into the DVD player from an early age, and also keeping it under their mommy as an actress radar. So they watched that movie, not understanding it was me, over and over and over and over and over again. So for me, it hasn't weirdly been that long, because I have spent the past 9 years walking through our TV room and having that movie. I was definitely absorbing something osmosis wise. And then when we did come back to work, I realized that listening to it without watching it had a really major sort of impact on my understanding of the character and understanding what my part is in telling this story using only my voice. And so I actually started to just listen to the movie in my car when I'd be crossing the city as mom all the time. And so wildly, as it were, it was a natural sort of thing. So I'm not sure if there had been a real break for me in taking in the story. I don't know what that experience would have been. But this I just felt was a natural next step. And now I go back into the studio.
We were back in immediate. It was immediate. It was, we started first take and it was boom.
I had my
Judy
ears
Hopps
on.
right here. You did have your ears on.
I literally had my ears on.
Was there something about where Judy goes in Zootopia 2 that was particularly interesting for you to explore?
Yes, I feel like what Disney is able to do with giving these characters a platform for growth and change, and like in real time, starting from the first minute, is like nothing I can't say I've experienced that doing live action. So the fact that it was like, I can do no wrong as an actress, I just have to show up and be authentic and present. And the words are going to take me where I need to go. And I just got to go on the ride. Like, I found that very interesting.
Hurt him? Snakes never hurt anyone. We aren't the bad guys. They are. And this journal holds the secret that will prove it.
Aki, you're new to this world.
I'm the new kid.
I would be curious to hear kind of what it's like to join a team that has already worked together so closely, and what it was about Gary that sort of drew you in.
Well, first of all, I was a huge fan of the first one, so I didn't quite know going in what it's like. But Jared, Byron, and Yvette, they're so welcoming. Every time I come in here for a session, they would always greet me at the door and walk me into the recording booth. And when I'm done, they would walk me out. It's actually a very Chinese thing to do. And I didn't know what to expect because I've never done this much. I did a cameo in Kung Fu Panda 4, but that was it. But going into this, it was such a interesting and challenging process for me because I'm so used to live action. I didn't get to read a script. There's no, sets. And there's really nothing to look at aside from, the pages in front of me. And it's really that I have to place my faith in hoping that they know what they're doing. and they do. But I had the most amazing time. And honestly, playing a venomous, pit viper, where everywhere he goes, he's misunderstood. But yet to bring empathy and kindness and to this character and the goofiness too that he has been really, really enjoying.
One of the things I got to say about these guys and Jason and Fortune is that we're so fortunate to have our leads be, you said, genuine and authentic. It's like so much of who Judy is Ginny, and so much of who Gary is Key, and Jason with Nick and Fortune with Nibbles. It was like, that is the best situation for us in animation, when you can write to people's actual personalities. Like, that goodness and true blueness exists in Ginny. And so I think that we feed off of that, and we rely on them to be incredible at what they do. Amazing performers. And I think I love this movie because, boy, you guys go there. Like you guys and Jason, and even like Fortune too. I think, as comedic as she is, there is so much depth and grounding to what they do. And I think that's where you're talking about like layers and legitimacy to these characters, where you go, okay, I believe that those characters aren't just cartoons on the screen. It's like, these are actual living, breathing souls that I'm seeing. So it's a huge piece of magic that happens when we get really good people portraying these characters.
Ginny and Key, I actually, that's a good segue into kind of the process piece. I would just be really curious, like, what is the biggest difference for you in terms of preparing to do voice work versus live action? And when you're doing it, is there anything where you're like, ooh, I sort of miss this about live action?
I would like to live in this space and only do this forever. You've gotten that note. You've gotten that note.
We've heard that one.
To me, there is something, it's all very sort of, I don't know, like, it sounds like hypocritical. That's not the right word, but like, this is a job where we are only using our imaginations, but I find it more freeing and more real than being on a live action set. So I don't really miss. I mean, I love acting and I love live action acting, but like, this is other level for me. I also feel like this is also hypocritically like a safer environment, because I just don't feel like we can do any wrong. We're just supposed to go in and like feel whatever it is we feel and like go on the ride, and whatever happens, happens. And it's not like we're supposed to be like, I don't know, hitting these beats that I feel like we're used to. We know exactly where we're going when we're doing this in live action, but this is always evolving. as we're working. So also we might come back a month later and the scene has gone in a completely different direction. And so there's something that feels alive about it that I don't experience when we're doing live action. So yeah, I just want to...
For me, there's a big difference. With live action, I have to worry about what I look like, my wardrobe, my body movement, because I do work with a body movement coach on a lot of the roles that I do. But with animation, I only bring half the performance. When we talk about, a collaboration, with animation, that couldn't be more true because our animators bring the other half of the performance. They give my character, Gary the Snake, facial expressions, body movement, and it's really a combination of me and them together to create this one character. So that is the most interesting part. And as Ginny said, the story is constantly evolving. It's very fluid. And, so it's really fun, but also putting a lot of our faith into these two guys,
But I got to say, though, not everybody can be so free in the booth. And I think that's a big part of it. I think like Ginny said and Key, like it is evolving, but it's evolving in the moment also based on what they're doing. So a lot of the times we'll have a moment and there will be magic that we find that we weren't expecting. And we're able to follow that because of what they're doing, because of the choices they're making. And sometimes it will be something comes out sillier than we were expecting. Great. And that pushes us more comedic. Or, oh my gosh, that's so vulnerable. I didn't think we're going to be that vulnerable in this moment. That completely changes the moment. And even what they're doing facially as they're speaking the lines, but all of their body movements, actually, the animators are paying attention to as well. I mean, I think there's this one moment towards the end of the movie where Gary is trying to get away from the villains to hopefully help Judy out, and it's kind of a fight sequence that we really looked a lot at Everything Everywhere All at Once for, and the amazing fanny pack sequence that Key did in that. But I mean, we had to take the opportunity to say like, all right, this is a fight sequence, so to see him in there throwing punches and running around the room, that's really great. But that energy, even though it's not a literal one-to-one because it's Key and then a snake, but they take that, those mannerisms, the way that he attacks something is something that we really pay attention to. So I think the really fun part is it's not one for one. I don't even know if it's 50-50. It's this really interesting marriage of all these things as you're going through. And I think it's everyone working together to create something that no one person could do alone.
So could you tell that story about you and Key talking about that one line at the end of the film?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my most favorite moments. So there's this really emotional part of the story where Judy thinks she's about to die. And the snake venom is taking over. Gary is about to freeze as a snake, as a cold-blooded animal. He can't handle the cold. And he comes up and we realize, because he's this heat-sensing pit viper, that he realizes that as a bunny, she's very warm. Actually, it used to be a line in the movie. Bunnies are one of the warmest mammals there are. Yeah. And so he uses her to sort of warm his body up to go save them. But he says before that, permission to hug. And it was this really nice moment. But Key texted me, a few weeks later and said, you know what? At the end of the movie, when Gary's family comes back, what if he said that again? And then the whole family came and hugged. And it was such a lovely moment, because I think it goes to both of them are so good at understanding who their characters are and improvising within those characters. And that was such a perfect, poignant, emotional moment that I loved. So I really appreciate you reaching out.
This is what I love about them. I don't think I've met anybody like them before. They're so quick to give someone else's credit. And they're so reluctant to take one for themselves. I mean, just like being in the recording booth, they have such a good ear. Every time I say a line, and it's very immediate, which I love, is they always come back and go, okay, what if we change that one line? And it's just write down this new line key. And I would just look at it, and it, it will look the same to me, but then when I say it out loud, it does make a difference. So it's just them standing a few feet away and understanding every single word of it's incredible.
The other one that I wanted to ask about was Gary's sort of mantra, "We shall succeed," Judy Hopps. That, I think, struck me as kind of like the most hopeful thing in the movie in a way. What's the origin story of that phrase?
From very early on, knowing that Judy is such an optimistic character, coming into a sequel story, we wanted to put a character next to Judy that was more Judy than Judy. So an even more optimistic character. And so this notion that Gary comes in the world and comes in their lives and is someone who believes in the goodness of the world even more, that believes they will succeed. It was really important for us to put that character next to Judy, because when she hits her low and she starts to question whether that's true, in the first movie, she would have been the one saying that line. But in this one, she starts to realize that maybe pushing for that, believing in that has gotten them into trouble. Certainly it's gotten Nick into trouble. She starts to worry, but having Gary say, we can make it through this. And for the first time, her having to say, I think maybe this time not, that she actually has to be the realist to his optimist. We just really love that dynamic. And so having something very simple that felt almost naive was important, because sometimes it is those hopeful, naive things that get us through. And sometimes those things are true. And if we believe in them, it's possible.
And when I do, my family will finally be able to come home.
Woo! Hops and Wild. Dream team.
On the ground! Help me save them!
I would like to call a partner meeting.
That it's often said that producers are problem solvers in the making of a movie.
We are the problem.
Solve us. How do you solve this? I don't know.
Well, because I wanted to ask what that looks like when you're making an animated feature specifically. Like, could you tell a story from the making of Zootopia 2 where you had a challenge and then how you ended up solving it?
Be nice.
Yeah.
Don't say the real ones.
It all starts with these two guys. No, these films are so complicated and complex, and this film in particular is really the biggest film that we've ever done here at Disney Animation. And so we have a crew of 700 artists and production management people who really kind of give everything they have to make these films possible. And so, whether it's one of the things that we talked about earlier is the script, we get a first version of the script very early on, years and years ago. And from that moment on, the script is continuously evolving, and we never have a done script. It's never done until right before the film releases and we know exactly what the movie is. And so when you have those kind of changes constantly happening throughout the production as we're actually making the film, because at some point we need to start making it or else we won't hit a release date. And so it's just a constant literally making the tracks right before the train comes. And so we're fortunate here at Disney Animation. I think we have the best production management people here because they're able to kind of react to those changes. And we're not doing this anymore. This section is out and this section is in, and we need to start building this area. We need to, in Marsh Market, we need to really kind of make sure it feels like this living world. And so when you have a team like that, I think there are many challenges along the way, but really one of the biggest ones is communication and making sure that everyone knows as we're sitting in editorial, because we'll spend hours in edit just really working the film and working the timing and the story, that as the crew is working on the outside, that communication is happening. Because oftentimes we're changing something that someone may be working on. And so we want to make sure that communication happens out there.
Also, just to say she's the best in the world at this, one of the trickiest parts of our system is that we are constantly trying to explore and learn things. That goes in direct opposition to we need to get a film made. Yeah. And when you start to feel the stress, I think the greatest producers are stress eaters. When you start to feel the stress, you start to become less creative. And so the amazing job she does is saying, try anything you want, as much imagination as possible, go for it. And for us to feel that as we're trying to figure out what the story is, but also knowing things do need to get set in stone at some point. But if we start feeling the worry about that, it makes everyone tense up. 700 people go, well, I guess we can't create anymore. And so I think the real superpower that Yvett has is to constantly be pushing creativity while also knowing when to prioritize. Okay, well, now we need to set that thing in stone, but keep playing over here, set this thing in stone, keep playing over there. And that's a really, really difficult task because we have 700 people working on this movie to make sure that everyone is feeling that they're not feeling that intense pressure all the time. It's one person has to put that on their shoulders. And that's that.
And just to go, I think that really kind of speaks to the partnership that we have. We've been fortunate enough to work. I've worked with these guys for years. I know we did Encanto together as producers and directors, but I first worked with Byron back on Tangled and with Jared on the first Moana. And so we've built this partnership and this relationship where, there's a huge amount of trust that has to happen between directors and producers. So when I say, hey, we really have to lock this section in, they know that we really have to lock this section in. I'm not saying it just to get it done, but on the sense to saying, okay, I'll let you play. I see we need to play a little bit more here, but we need to actually start doing this part. So.
Yeah. And that's honestly, it's the best feeling. And I think because we're sort of a repertory theater company here, I think we do this largely under one roof. Like we have our studio here in Burbank and our studio in Vancouver, but we work with the same people over and over again. Some veterans who worked with us for years. Some people are brand new who have just stepped into the studio for the first time. Some who saw the first film when they were students and now they're story artists or animators or production people. And so I think that kind of community is super important because like Yvette's right. Like I feel completely safe with these two because I know he's got that, she's got that, I got what I can do. We all bring different things to the table, but I think that respect and that kind of trust, it's critical because like she's managing something that is by its nature unmanageable. There is just no way to predict what these films will do, when they're going to push you someplace you didn't expect. It can be a line that comes up in the recording booth. It can be like a screening. It can be a drawing someone does. It goes, oh my God, that's what the movie needs to be about. And suddenly you're off somewhere different. So it's not like manufacturing something that you can predict like, oh, this cup is going to look exactly like that. I don't know what this is going to be when it's done, but it's going to be great. It's going to be better than this and it's going to be from all of us. So I think it's terrifying. But it's the best thing to kind of like all hold hands and jump in together because at the end you're going to come up with something great.
That you mentioned Marsh Market, and I have to say, as a longtime New Orleanian, I love seeing the Zootopia version of a bayou. Mm-hmm. Walk me through what that process actually looks like in terms of conceiving of this new world within the universe and then fleshing it out and then maybe having them need to play or throw some wrenches in the works and then kind of finalizing it. What does that look like from soup to nuts?
On the first film, we actually wanted to bring in hippos and have a chase in the water. It didn't make sense story-wise to have that be in the original movie. It felt like it was shoehorned in. And the second something's shoehorned in, it's not worth it. Or to go to the trouble of trying to build all that out for 30 seconds, it doesn't make sense. But for this one, which is really a story of differences, the idea that we go to the area where we'd have semi-aquatic mammals and marine mammals, there's nothing more different for Nick and Judy than that environment. And it was really fun for us because there's no human world equivalent. Obviously, if you go to Tundra Town, you're like, oh, I get it. I know what I'd do if I was cold, or if I go to Sahara Square, I know what I'd do if it was hot. But there's no, the human civilization that is concurrently above and below water and needs to feel seamless between the two. Yeah. And so what we did very early on was say, one, we really want to spend a bunch of time here. And we started very early figuring out what that might be like, but also making sure that we have a lot of resources to do it well. And one of the first things we did was something we called a story jam, which is we got our entire story team. These are artists that really are kind of writers, but on the page. And they're the first ones to put pen to paper to kind of visualize what the story is going to be. So we got not just our own crew's story team, but the entire story department, brought in all of our animators, visual development artists, and we said, we're going to go to this new place. It's for semi-aquatic animals. What is fun about it? And we just spent 2 hours not worrying about what the story is. We said, don't worry about what happens there, because we don't know yet. Don't worry about what characters we have or don't have. Let's just play. And we just spitballed. And we did that. The first time we did it for a couple hours. We did it multiple times just to say, what's going to be interesting there? There's this one moment in the movie where you see this walrus that turns upside down and he has this sort of weird little boat chairs on him. That came from one of those story jams. Someone just like, here's a really weird thing. We said, we love that. But other things like, how would you design it? Like in a human world, if you go down to docks, there's fences everywhere because they don't want you to fall in the water. These animals would not want that. They would want to be able to go in and out of the water, no problem. They have conveyor belts that take the big guys out of the water. So we really had to think, what would these animals design for themselves? Even the waterways for these animals aren't like our waterways where you put boats on them. That's living spaces for these animals. So you had to really change your mind. So I think that was a big thing early on to say, we believe in this. Yeah. And probably 2 years ago, we said to everyone, we're going to go to this location. The story may change within this location, but we are committing to being in this place.
Yeah, and one of the things Jared just mentioned has been a tentpole for us from the first film that honestly I think the audience has come to expect, which is this is a world for animals built by animals.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we can lean into that and think like animals, that's like the multi-scale doors and the train in the first movie, the transportation tubes in this world, which is, it could be fun in another movie. In this world, it's actually very practical. It's how they get across town. That's how a hippopotamus or a seal or a walrus gets across town. So the fact that we're thinking of civic design and accessibility and honestly, the practical nature of like cities are kind of crazy melting pots of a whole bunch of different people with different needs. Same thing with these animals. So conveyor belts, for like the animals that don't have that, they have flippers. They can't step up on stairs and things like that, transport tubes. And then that leads to that chase sequence through the transport tubes is incredible. But I don't think that would have been there had that animal thinking not been there months and months before.
Yeah. And also we have, dozens and dozens of people that make it look lived in. So if you look at that place, some of these docks are made out of wood. You'll see like nibble marks. Clearly beavers have gone through the air and just eaten it to death. There's fish scales, there's barnacles and everything. Those are all done by hand. It's not like you go, okay, now it's real. Like that is everyone going in doing these fine details. So when you look at it, you don't think about the fact that it feels that lived in. It just feels natural, but that's dozens of people really working hard constantly with all those tiny little details.
Yeah, that's actually one more thing you just brought up is the handmade quality of it. Like everything you're seeing from every grain in the wood, every leaf on the tree, it's all designed by our artists and our technicians. And it's just, it is incredible. It's like, I don't know how honestly these films get done because they're so massive. And like Yvette said, this is
a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Producer knows.
But it's the biggest movie we've ever made in 100 years of Disney animation. Is the biggest movie we've ever made. Most films have about 1,600 to 1,800 shots. This one had upwards of 20. How many? 2,200 shots. So hundreds of more shots, 80 different environments, 65 plus species of animals, 70 speaking roles. So this, and the scale, I think, is something that we wanted to do, and I think something the audience was hoping we'd do. So I think that's all. We always want to take a step up from the film before.
See, now I got to go watch the movie again.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Bub, 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 bub.
Bub, 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 bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey, bub, bub.
Hey, bub. Bubby, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey, bub. Hey, ho.
Hey, bub, bub.
Hey, bub.
Cine Zeus.
Yup.
As entertaining as it is to explore all these worlds, the film also contains these really powerful messages. And one that really struck me was when Chief Bogo says to Judy that her behavior, quote, reflects badly on any bunny who wants to follow in your footsteps. Ginnifer, I was wondering if you've ever had a similar experience of being made to feel that way or thinking that, or even being told that in your own life as an actor in Hollywood.
Well, I will say I grew up in the South, and not to stereotype, but I was raised in the South. Especially, I spent a lot of time with grandmothers from the South, and I do feel like there was always an emphasis, which I still carry with me, that I had to be a lady first. And I do think I actually went down this rabbit hole when I was shooting a movie called Mona Lisa Smile, and we had to go to etiquette school. And I read all of these etiquette books from my grandmother's eras. They gave me their etiquette books. And I was learning that a lot of the things that have become traditional, at least in the United States, in terms of, the gentleman is to open the door ahead of the lady, when you stand up at a table based on who's come to say hello, we're all based on making life more efficient, which I really respect. Because if you knew what your place was, which I also then think deserves like refuting, but if you know what your place is, then like everybody understands like what their lane is and everything goes more smoothly. So again, I respect both sides of that theory, but I do feel like I have carried with me into Hollywood, and as a woman, that I do have to reflect. I do have to carry with me the responsibility of being a woman, or being Jewish, or being an actress, or whatever it is, being a mother who is also working, whatever all of these things, whatever these definitions, I do feel a responsibility to represent those to play those roles well. But I have to say, like, I really see both sides of it in terms of like, I'm proud to play those roles well, or at least to try to, and like do right by my grandmothers. But I also understand where like those roles need questioning for sure. It raises more questions than answers.
Key, what about you? Does that message that Chief Bogo gives to Judy about sort of putting the pressure on her to be representative of a whole group, how does that resonate with your experience in the entertainment business?
You know, I grew up in a very traditional Chinese value family. I was raised to be kind, to be polite, to be respectful, all of those. And also, more importantly, don't bring shame to the family. Every time you go out, you represent us. So make sure, you behave yourself. And also being an actor as well, too, because everywhere we go, you get recognized and then people look at you and you're kind of like, you kind of represent the work that you bring out to the world. So yeah, and a lot of times I feel like, I have to, I have to be good, be well behaved. And I think that really shapes who I am today. But I don't think of it. I mean, I was very lucky. I got to work with some really incredible people ever since I was a kid, all the way up until now, and just watching Yvett, everybody, the entire team, and how they carry themselves and how they treat others, with kindness and empathy and all of that. So that's what I try to do every day. That's that's what I'm aspired to do every time I wake up, to be a better person. So yeah.
Jared, Byron, and Yvette, what would you say drives you to want to create family entertainment that also engages in topics like prejudice and displacement, and through nibbles, disinformation, conspiracy theory?
Hilarious disinformation. I think that was one of the things. And honestly, Jared and I in the first movie came by that very organically. Like, we started with this love for animals, but in exploring the dynamics of the animal world, we saw sociology, and we saw territoriality, we saw good choices and bad choices, we saw natural opposition and conflict. And so it led really naturally into talking about our world, the human world, by holding a mirror up to us. And kind of like, I think that's why animal characters are so great, because it's a way to step back for a moment from who we are as a species ourselves and go, okay, I can now, with a little bit more objectivity, watch this play out, and I can feel how it touches me in my own world. So I think there's something, it's accessible, it's universal. There's something about, I think, why this movie plays so well around the world, is that no matter where you grew up, no matter what situation you're in, you can find yourself in this movie. And I think I love that. I love that there is a significance to that. I love that there's a grounding to what these movies can talk about. I love that they're incredibly complex, difficult things that you wouldn't think kids would be able to follow. But there's something amazing that happens too, is like when a kid will watch the first film when they're, say, 8, then now, 9 years later, when they're in their late teens or early 20s, it means something different. They see those layers, and it's a great compliment to what Jared does as a scriptwriter, and also to our crew and our producers who really support complex messaging like that. But I think you work so long on these films, I think you want them to matter. So
I think that's really important. I mean, I'd say growing up for me, knowing that Disney films had such a big impact on me, I mean, it's something we think about a lot. We believe that these movies are going to have an impact now for a different generation. And it doesn't have to just be children, it can be all ages. But knowing that there's an impact, it's really important to say something meaningful. And I'd say that with this film, we wanted to make sure that it was really entertaining. We wanted to bring joy into a world that we think needs joy, but also we hope that people walk out of the movie thinking about what this movie is talking about. And we wanted that to be something that mattered.
Notice how she answered first, did not allow her partner to speak, and taps her foot when she's suppressing discomfort. And observe the source of her discomfort, represented by the disconnected affectation of her emotionally insecure partner.
Yvette, what message would you like to see young viewers walk out of this movie with?
I think, first of all, the joy and having a good time. And there's so many things, I love that people are going to the theater and seeing this in a movie theater and having this shared experience. I grew up going into a theater and going into this dark room and having and laughing with with a bunch of people that I don't know, and crying and having these jump scares and all these emotions that you feel. And you have this communal experience, and you may not sometimes you're talking to a person you don't know on the way out. Sometimes, but just having that is such a unique experience. I think that I love that people are going to the theater and seeing it. But, ultimately, I want them to be able to kind of see themselves in these characters and find themselves. What I love about the world of Zootopia, because it is a world of animals, there's no limitation to who you can see yourself in. And whether it's, Gary or Judy or even Nick, someone who is a bit more guarded with his emotions and feelings, and be able to connect with that, and giving, not just children, but adults, and people of all ages that opportunity to connect with these stories and these characters is such a unique experience to have. I'm so glad that, we're able to kind of bring that out.
Speaking of Nick, there has been some chatter online about the possibility of a love story emerging.
I haven't heard of
never
that.
heard of that.
No, this is the first I'm hearing of this.
And I think it's because Nick and Judy's relationship has elements that we've come to associate with romantic comedies in terms of their being at loggerheads and then coming to see eye to eye or work together. I'm curious, Ginnifer, if that is something that you would be excited about if it were to develop in a future Zootopia, or if you want it to kind of stay platonic.
I'm so excited you asked her first.
Yes, because I just want to make sure everyone is aware that a fox and a bunny would make a funny. That is what I have to say about that. Bosses?
Oh, I love it. Oh, no. Well, I'd say people I've seen a lot of strong opinions about this. I think something that Byron and I especially love is there is this undeniable chemistry. And there's something about the fact that these two are very different. Not only, one's a fox and one's a bunny. They see the world very differently. This is a movie about our differences and how sometimes those differences can worry us and make us feel like those differences are insurmountable. But ultimately, these characters realize that the differences make them great. That's what makes them, they should be together for that reason. As far as like a romance is concerned, it is, I'd say, without getting myself into trouble here, it is really fun to play both sides a little bit. I think there's something about, I think one of the reasons why audiences are really enjoying it is because there hasn't really been one of those stories in a very long time where you go, maybe or not, what's happening here? There's something interesting and engaging about it. I'd say that for me personally, it's really, these guys are great together. Mm-hmm. They're also really flawed and they make bad choices all the time, but they push through. And I think that's one of the reasons people root for them. Yeah. You say the next part.
No, I will say, that chemistry thing I think is real. I think that it's such a great thing. And we talk about them being soulmates. And I love that term because beyond romance, beyond friendship, beyond like what people typically experience, when you find that other soul that literally is like the most important person in the whole wide world to you, and they say that to each other in this movie, and I absolutely love that. I love what he wrote. He wrote that scene, the here it comes all out overshare confessional. He wrote that super early, and I think word for word that stayed as intact as any other scene in the movie. Like everything changed around it, but we knew that overshare was going to be there, and I love that they started at odds with each other, and that they're learning difficult lessons, but there's a complexity to their relationship that I love, and I agree. Like you don't see that in a lot of animated films. You don't see it even in a lot of like live action films. I think there's a depth to that you need time to really enjoy that and really go, what a wonderful moment in a relationship to be in, where people are discovering each other and kind of figuring out each other, and then also figuring out like how important they are to each other is something so wonderful about that. And like too frequently in movies, I think that moment is over. It's fleeting, but I think with them it's lasting, and there's something that there's other facets to them with them and their families and like what they think and how they grew up and where they came from that haven't even been explored yet, which I think is so rich. So I think we want to stay in that richness and really just see them, enjoy them together.
In terms of the resonance of the film with audiences, just as we were sitting down to start taping, the news was announced that the film crossed $1 billion at the box office.
Oh, way to go. Yes.
One thing that has emerged in the box office reporting around the film is that it has been hugely successful in China, which has become a notoriously difficult place for American films to crack. Jared, as Chief Creative Officer of Walt Disney Animation Studios, I'm going to come to you with this first. What do you think explains why Zootopia in particular has done so well in the Chinese market, which has become tougher for American films?
Well, when the first film came out, audiences in China really embraced it. And in talking to a lot of folks there, one of the main reasons for that was that people really read themselves into that story. Specifically, a lot of people had this experience of being from a small rural town, moving to the big city to try to make it. And that was really Judy's story in the first film. So I think Byron mentioned earlier, because this is a world of animals, no matter where you are in the world, you can read yourself into these characters, into this story. So I think because of that, it really resonated. Even the city skyline of Zootopia itself reminded people of Shanghai, and that was like a really big part of that. There's no, that's a very specific reason why in the Disneyland park there in Shanghai, there's a Zootopia themed land there. It was incredibly popular for that. But I'd say for this movie, you can never take that for granted. You don't know. Obviously, it's been a little while since the last movie from the U.S. has really landed there. And I think it's not dissimilar from what we see here, is that I think audiences really just want a reason to go. They want to go and know that they're going to have a great time. They want to be entertained. They want to go on this big journey. And they want their expectations to be exceeded. And so you can never really there's no sort of secret formula to this, but I think what we want to do more than anything else, we wanted to continue the story in a way that would surprise people. And that not only was this really fun ride, but got you to see these characters on a deeper level. I think people really enjoy that because ultimately they're watching themselves, they're watching their friends, they're watching their family on screen, and going to those deeper levels gives them something to explore. And I think it's really fun. So I think for us, when we look at, how it's been received there, to me, what aside from like the box office, what that really means is there are people going to theaters. There's a lot of people going to theaters. They want to share these moments. It's people that are engaged in the characters, that these stories are resonating. And so for me, it's really a testament to the amazing acting work that was done in this movie. Our incredible animators bringing that to life, the 700 people that worked really hard to over deliver. And I think right now, audiences want to go in and know they're going to have a great time and have those expectations exceeded.
I think we all commonly think this, is that these movies don't belong to us. It belongs to those audiences, the Chinese audience, the world audience. The affection and support that they showed for these characters, we really pay attention to that. So honestly, I think we think of ourselves as just custodians of these characters and caretakers to make sure, like Jared said, like that we not only deliver, but expand like the best next chapters in these series of movies. I think it always has to kind of build on what the first one was, hopefully be better than the first one, take you deeper. And I think we do feel like we owe a lot to the audience to deliver that and over-deliver it. Yeah.
Ginnifer and Key, what has the experience of engaging with the Chinese fan base, the global fan base of this been like? You were telling me a little bit about the great merch in China before we sat down.
Super cute. You got to, it's true.
But by the way, they also have a great Chinese cast who are also translating our performances into their own things and are also the custodians of this story. In fact, I was wondering, I want someone to give me a list, or I want at least a number of like, how many Judy Hopps are there? Because like, she's not just mine. She belongs to all of us.
47.
They're all 47.
So you guys are like an extended family of all the different characters.
It's a team sport. And I do feel like, as much as we talk about like, we're only one voice, and then you also have like the 700 people working at Disney who are creating these characters. And so we are doing this as a team. I feel like we also have to include all of these actors who are lending their talents to this. I went, by the way, this is so off the subject, but I went to the scoring session and saw the 100 musicians who were bringing this to life and make me cry with this one particular, we'll talk about that later. Can't listen to the soundtrack without crying every single time. But the point is, I feel like worldwide, it is we are just custodians, as Byron said. And this is such a worldwide, it's a beast. Yeah. And I loved specifically being in China and seeing, I'm called a Disney adult a lot because I am a nut for anything Disney. I do resent that we have to add adult. We get that I'm a grown up. And I don't understand why we always have to be drawing this line, because I also go to see Zootopia. I also go see all the Disney films. And I say, these aren't kids' movies. These are movies for the world. These are movies for all of us. And I have to say, being in China, I was so moved by the number of, I don't feel like there's a Disney adult thing there. It's just Disney. It's just, there are Disney fans, there are Disney lovers. And there were adults in cosplay everywhere. Yeah. It blew me away, but I found it a very emotional experience. Yeah. And we weren't, I was not really recognized so much, walking around the Disneyland in Shanghai. And I was right, because the Chinese actress who plays Judy Hopps is the one who is going to be recognized if she's walking around Shanghai Disneyland. Mm-hmm. And so I could really get in there and get up close. And I just loved feeling the love while it's not being directed at me, right? It's being directed at this thing that we've all been part of creating.
The Chinese audience love to watch the English version.
Oh, interesting.
The majority of the audience
really
loves watching. Every time, so many friends, our friends in China reached out and they go, that's all they want to watch is the English version. They want to watch the original version. But one of the things that I love about this movie, I've seen so many videos of, these fans in the movie theater and the joy. It's the audience consists of all ages, and just to seeing them in their seats with a bucket of popcorn and soda and just so mesmerized by this world that they created. That's, being a part of, this Zootopia family. That's a dream come true for me. But also one of the things I want to talk back about, why the audience resonated, especially the Chinese people. There was that one great line that helped me here. When Gary said that the world doesn't fall on what's that line?
One person's shoulder.
A one person's shoulder. That line really resonated with the Chinese audience because of, for a long time they had that one child policy. Mm-hmm. So they feel like the world is on their shoulder. It's their responsibility to carry on the family's legacy and to do well and to do all of that. And here comes this one line from the movie, and they felt like, oh, wow. I really resonate that I can just be myself. Mm-hmm. Wow. And there's so many wonderful themes in the movie, but just seeing how excited they are and how much joy our movie brought to them, it makes this whole thing so meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Yvett, this film crossing $1 billion makes you the first animation producer in history to have 2 consecutive.
Yes. Isn't that crazy? Yes.
It is a little crazy.
I'm a little starstruck.
Yeah.
How does that feel? And I guess the other question is what would you pinpoint as an explanation for what you feel like you're doing right to have that kind of success? Take notes, everybody.
Working at Disney Animation, let me tell you that. It's mind-blowing that anything like this happens once. To happen twice in a row is even more mind-blowing. But really, it's really about the team. And I'm so excited that we've said a number of times, we have 700 artists and production management people on this crew who made this film possible, who made Moana 2 possible. And, but there's, 1,200 people in the studio here in Burbank and another 300 in Vancouver. And all of it takes everyone. I think that's why I love working here so much. I grew up playing sports and it's to me, it's like the ultimate team sport because it takes every single person to get these films out the door, whether, you're working in operations and keeping the lights on in the studio or in finance, making sure that the bills get paid. All of those things happen just so we can focus on the film and get these films out the door. And so, it really is just a reflection of the amazing work that the entire team has been doing for many years here at Disney Animation, and fortunate that I get to share it with these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, I mean, again, one of the reasons that she's so great at what she does is because these movies are incredibly difficult. But to have something be joyous on the screen means that amidst that difficulty, you have to find ways to make sure that everyone working on it is feeling good about their work, that they're inspired, that the environment is one that breeds creativity. That's not an accident. That's a lot of hard work.
That's true. That's true. I don't think it's an accident that she's an amazing human being. I think that's, in my experience, I've been very lucky because the people at this table included, I get to work with some of the best human beings anywhere. And I think just the fact that you're all so generous, and I think that we're all good team players. I think we really appreciate the fact that we're so fortunate enough to be doing this crazy, fun, difficult job, but the fact that we all love each other so much, I think that makes it so much easier. And she's an amazing example of that. So we're so proud of you.
Just to, he was our animation director on Moana 2, and Jared was also the writer. So I don't know how many writers also have back-to-back billion-dollar films. So there you go, Jared Bush.
It's very nice.
Before we go, I wouldn't be much of a journalist if I didn't try to make some news.
Yeah.
Can you share anything about thoughts, early plans, openness to doing a Zootopia 3?
Yes, I want to hear too.
Hey, he has some questions.
Yeah.
I got a pitch for you. It's a musical with snakes.
My kids been pitching to
I know,
you guys.
actually,
My 9 and 11-year-old.
That is true. I've heard a whole story from them already.
Oh yes. And there's more. I was like, why don't you guys start writing this down, and I'll hand it to them. We don't need to monopolize their time every time we're together with your ideas.
Well, I mean, jump in there, Byron.
No, I would say, I think Jared and I would spend the rest of our careers in this world if we could. I don't know if Yvett is tired of us yet, but I think, honestly, the world is so huge and playful, and it is really, because it was built from love, like it is everything we love. It's the humor, the social commentary, the great voice acting that kind of makes these characters really sing, and there's so much more. So honestly, it's a great sort of happy place for us, and it's a great playground. And honestly, the more people that come in and get involved in these movies, the more it grows, the more great ideas come in. And whenever we pitch something from this happened with Encanto too, as well as Zootopia, but like even the first little kernel of an idea, as soon as someone across the table from you starts smiling and they start thinking up stuff on their own without you having to do much work, that's when I think you have something that's really magic, and that magic has really been a part of Zootopia.
Yeah, and we spent several months building a bird feather. It would be a shame to not have that mean something.
We spent so much money on that feather. Oh my gosh, every quill. Oh, anyway.
So let me translate all of that for you. We start production early next year, and it comes out.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're game to take.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
As well.
This has been such a dream come true from the beginning to end, and especially seeing how much the audience love it. This is the most rewarding thing.
Well, that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for your time. This has been a great chat.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Fun. Yeah.